Righty, well, shall we go ahead and get started?
Yeah, let's go ahead and get started. Thank you so much for joining us. I'm Jake Alexander with Action Accounting. I have an amazing guest here today, Jim Conaway, who I will fully introduce here in the next few minutes. But I just want to take a few minutes to say thank you for taking time out of your day to join us. We really appreciate it. We're going to talk about doing well by doing good today, which is one of my most personal, most passionate topics. Jim, I know it is yours as well. And so we invited you here because you're quite the expert in this field. We're going to talk about converting taxable income to tax-free income, which is something that everyone should be focused on.
Now wait a minute. Jake, you got to say that again because it's just so sexy. Did you just say tax-free income?
Tax-free income. That's the dream, right?
Goodness. Yes.
And it's not even a dream. We're helping people get there. You've done quite a bit of it over your career. And so that's what we're doing here. Before we jump into the good stuff, the attorneys did say that we had to tell this to everyone, that these serve only as examples, should not be considered individual tax, financial, or legal advice. You're responsible to do your own due diligence. And the only real reason for that is, everyone's situation is so different and is so unique in this industry that it really just makes sense. You're going to want to have a sit down and talk with a professional about your specific situation, so we can come up with a specific plan for you and for your needs there. So now that we got that out of the way, I want to introduce Jim here. Jim Conaway since 8/8/88. Jim Conaway has been involved with many facets of the financial services industry. As a platform speaker for many diverse communities, including the American Association of Hispanic CPAs. You've provided continuing education for enrolled agents such as myself and CPAs on a variety of topics, including charitable planning. You were a radio show host of Smart Money Talk Radio on an NBC affiliated station since 2001. Jim and his wife have collaborated with charities, tax professionals, tax firms, assisting hundreds of people to achieve better results with planned giving, raising over $50 million for charities. Without further ado, Jim, I'm going to let you take over from here.
Thank you. And you know what? You said at the top of the show, it is a personal area of interest. That's one of the reasons why I volunteered to do this. We have a relationship in common that introduced us and is actually promoting this particular tidbit of information. We'll introduce them in a little bit. In the meantime, charity. People are familiar with charity when it comes down to, okay, you buy cookies to help support the Girl Scouts or whatever. You give things to Goodwill. You write checks. Now, what's interesting is that there's a whole different level of charity, and we're going to be talking about how to accumulate wealth, build wealth by giving money away. That's what we mean by doing well. That's the building wealth part, by doing good, which is the charity part. But before we do that, let's go over some basics, shall we? Types of gifts. I love this. Outright gifts, everybody's familiar with that. You can go ahead and write a check, donate cash. It's the stuff in the envelope. Just a little FYI, if you do give money to a charity and you want to take the tax deduction, a canceled check is not sufficient. You must have a letter of thanks with the EIN number of the charity. Correct, Jake?
That is correct, along with a name, address as well.
Thank you. In kind. Sometimes being kind means to do it in kind. Now, I love the photo that our staff managed to find, and that's exactly what they mean. This is the stuff you clean out of the closet, right? And you go down and you give that to Goodwill or whatever charity will take the gift. By the way, just a little FYI, Jake, I don't know if you know this, but the charity has the right to refuse the gift. It's interesting.
Really?
Yes.
Yeah, very interesting.
And here's where it really surprised me. I had an upright piano, beautiful upright piano, nothing wrong with this piano, a little out of tune, and I literally could not give it away. Literally could not give it away. Charities either A, didn't have the facility to come get the piano, and I couldn't throw the thing in the trunk of my car, okay? Or B, they said they're not interested. So when you do the planned giving, one of the planning things you should do when you're doing the giving the stuff away is make sure it's stuff that they'll accept. For instance, I just ran into this one. Goodwill will not accept light bulbs, even if they're brand new in the package. Like, who knew? Okay. So
Like
let's
trying
talk
to
about
donate
the
an old pool table.
Yeah, really. Let's talk about the limitations of outright gifts. You can write off we can write off an outright gift up to 50% of adjusted gross income, and in-kind gift up to 30%. Now, if you wanted to give away, say, 25% of your adjusted gross income in stuff, and you still wanted to give money on top of it, you're more than welcome to do it. As long as the two types of gifts do not exceed 50%, you're in like Flynn. Remember, you're going to cap out at 30% of your stuff gift, right? Okay, knowing that, there are some things that we can do here, and I will tell you this: if you are having a taxable event year, we'll talk about what kinds of things you can use these against, but that's the year that you want to clean out your kids' room. You know, they moved out 4 years ago and you've been hanging on to stuff. Maybe now's the time to get those tax deductions by giving it away. Okay, let's talk about what we're here for. What is planned giving? It literally is a future promise of gifts. I'm going to give money to charity, and you get the tax deductions today. Now, as simple as that sounds, of course, like any other government type program, there's some complexities and paperwork that needs to be adhered to. We're going to talk about that, but real quick, planned giving, literally getting a tax deduction for gifts in the future. What can we use these kinds of tax deductions against, Jake?
Bonuses, RSUs, sales of real estate, stocks, businesses, estate tax, Roth conversions, one of your personal favorites. I know that, Jim.
Yep. What is so cool about a Roth IRA, Jake?
With the Roth IRA, it is tax-free on the end that you want to be on. So
yes, we all want to be tax-free. That I want to back up. There's an entire separate presentation about estate tax, but if you do have an estate tax, I am here to tell you that Jake and our team can show you how to eliminate the estate tax. I didn't say it paid for it with a discounted life insurance policy or something like that. I said, get rid of the estate tax. Okay, so if you're interested in that, just make a note when you make an appointment with our team, myself and our team, please bring that up and we'd be glad to walk you through how that all works. In the meantime, we're going to be talking about the sexy stuff of tax-free income from a Roth IRA. All righty. Let's go through what a Roth conversion is. I like to consider it, Jake, I like to consider it like a toll bridge. I want to move all of my money from taxable land over the bridge into tax-free land. But it's a toll bridge. The toll is the amount of tax you pay on the conversion. So let's say I have $125,000. I want to move it from my IRA to a Roth IRA. I have $125,000 of taxable income. That's the toll coming across that bridge. Well, Jake, now I'm going to ask you a question. Hope I haven't surprised you with this one. What if I have $125,000 of tax deductions and I convert $125,000 of IRA to Roth? How much tax am I going to pay in that circumstance?
You're going to pay zero, Jim, because those deductions are going to offset that income that's coming from the Roth conversion, which is amazing.
Ooh, yeah. So now you're starting to see the building blocks that we're going to play with today. Let's go ahead and show them how it actually functions, this planned gift. It's called an annuity lead trust. As you can see over here in the original blue box, there's $150,000 of equity. The fair market value in our circumstance, in our scenario here, is $500,000. Okay. Now, that's okay. The IRS measures everything off of the equity in this particular circumstance. So now our equity comes across and goes into this lead trust. The lead trust promises to the IRS that we're going to give away $7,500 a year, and that income will go up a little bit. You're going to give away a total of $193,500 to charity over 20 years. I'm going to repeat that. $193,500 goes to charity. You get $125,000 tax reduction up front. That's going to offset the toll going across that conversion bridge. That estimated toll is going to be about $35,000. But think about this one. How in the world can we do a webinar saying that you're going to build wealth after giving away $193,000? Well, let's take a look at that yellow box for a minute, and you'll start to see a glimmering of how this works. Remember, we started this with $500,000 worth of real estate. We're giving away the rents that the real estate earns. But as long as those rents exceed the gifts to charity, everything else stays inside the trust. I get my mortgage paid down because I'm paying the mortgage for 20 years. I also get appreciation of the real estate. That's tax deferred. Yes?
Absolutely.
And excess rents. If I add that all up, $642,000. I started with 150. That's not bad math, but I'm wondering, Jake, if we go through a scenario with one of my favorite clients, a Mr. Sam, and his last name is Paul, Mr. Sample. Could we go?
Nice.
Thank you. Thank you. Let's take a look at the situation for just a quick second. Now,
before we do, could I ask one quick question, Jim? Not to derail you, but what's the significance of the 20 years there? I just wanted to ask that and clarify that real quick.
Well, thank you. If you want to go back a slide, let's go over that. Okay, that 20 years is almost an arbitrary number of years. We can make it shorter or longer depending on the performance of the assets and depending on how aggressive you want to be. So we use 20 years because we don't know what the applicable federal rate will be, and that's part of the formula that the government gives us. Now, when I say the formula that the government gives us, I want to also tell our listeners, please understand that this is center straight with the IRS. This is not somebody's opinion of the law. This is not a really good idea that we hope will work. The IRS has had this written into the tax code since 1969. As long as we play by the rules that are laid out, we're in great shape. I love that, the fact that this is center street with the IRS. Okay.
Absolutely.
So the 20 years is just part of the math that we do to figure out how it worked. In this particular case, we wanted to be super conservative. As you can see, we only started off with 5% distribution. So to play it safe, we wanted to make sure that the distribution that we were giving to Tatiana's charity, okay, we wanted to make sure that that was always less than what the property would earn. Make sense? And that's how we ended up with our formula. So let's go over Mr. Sample.
Nice. Thank you so much, Jim. I just wanted to say to the listeners too, if you guys do have a question along the way, there's a Q&A box in the bottom. Feel free to type those in. We've got plenty of time built in at the end, but if you do have them along the way, I love asking Jim on the spot to see if we can throw them off a little bit too. So feel free to toss those in there.
Good luck with that one, Jake. Good luck. I'm ready for
Only
you.
because I know it wouldn't work. Only because you're a pro, Jim.
Okay, so in this particular case, Mr. Sample, by the way, his wife's name is Example. His son's name is Straw Pole. Just saying. He has $150,000 of equity and $500,000 worth of real estate. Doesn't matter what he paid for, it matters what it's worth at the time we set up the trust. He also has $125,000 inside an IRA. That is taxable. Remember the bridge that we talked about? Here we have real numbers. So he makes that promise to charity. Okay, he says, Tatiana, I promise to give your charity $193,500 over the next 20 years. And by golly, he gets $125,000 tax deduction. Well, what does that produce? Let's take a look at this. First thing we got to take a look at, that real estate. $642,000. Now, folks, please understand, we did not get crazy aggressive here. We assumed a 3% appreciation on the real estate. We assumed mortgage pay down, and we assumed a 7.5% rents. Okay, that's $642,000. Now, watch this. I'm going to psychically transfer the answer to Jake. This is my little Kreskin moment here. I'm psychically transferring the answer to Jake. How much tax do I pay on that real estate at this time without selling it?
$0.
See, I'm psychic. You're impressed. Okay.
Amazing.
Okay, now remember that we got that toll bridge, and Sam, he just went ahead and used his tax deductions to offset that and converted his $125,000 into a Roth at 7.2%. Guess what? It's worth $525,000 in 20 years. Okay, folks, maybe you're 66 years old like me, and you're saying to yourself, gee whiz, would this thing work? I'm kind of old. Well, yeah, it would. Look at the numbers. We've got $1.1 million and some change worth of assets here, and we only gave away $193,000. But let's see if we can make that better. Remember, the radio show host, I get to legitimately say, but wait, there's more. If my real estate's producing 7.2% cash on cash return, how much is that going to produce if I'm retired for 20 years? That's right, $924,000 without invading the principal. What? Wait, what? We just tipped over a $2 million mark. Okay, but wait, there's more. If we're earning 7.2% on our Roth IRA for the next 20 years in retirement, that's $756,000 of income. That's right, $756,000 of income, and there's no tax on that money. Woof. Okay, so how much tax did we save on the toll bridge? That's right, $43,750 of tax saved when we converted. Now, remember, the Roth IRA is tax-free. Go ahead. $264,000 is tax you will not pay over that 20 years worth of retirement. By the way, the 20 years of retirement is completely arbitrary. I have no idea how long you live. The longer you live, the more money you make. But over 20 years, what kind of benefit would we get out of our little charitable trust? What? Okay. I don't know if you can do the math on this one, Jake, but that looks like a good return. I put in $275,000 and get back $3 million.
I would sign up for that return every day of the week.
Thank you. Thank you very much. Oh, by the way, you get to feel warm and fuzzy about all the kids and all the programs you're supporting with that $193,500 worth of gifts to charity. This is what we mean by doing well, by doing good. Now I think you can actually see the numbers. I want to back up and just talk briefly about this. Remember something, folks. This is center street with the IRS. It works no matter what your age is. In this particular case, we're assuming that Sam was, say, 45 when he set it up, 65 when he converted to the retirement phase of this plan, and he lived for 20 years. Okay, your numbers will be different. This is why we're offering the free consultation. Not a problem. You contact me. You'll get my calendar link at the end of this. We'll work as part of a team to get you to your best result. Okay, now you can understand how Lorraine and I have managed to raise over $50 million to charity, because that 50 million of charities, that's the 193,000, translated to how much extra wealth building for our clients. Like, wow. Okay, that's really amazing. Okay, let's take a quick recap on this one. The donor, you set up a lead trust. You transfer your property or your equity or your cash or whatever the assets are into the lead trust. The only thing that the asset cannot be is an active business. So you can do anything else, okay? It's in the lead trust. Whatever income it produces, we promise fixed payments like a mortgage payment to leaders yielding to new knowledge. I'm going to say that again. Leaders yielding to new knowledge. Now, that's Tatiana's foundation. We're going to give her just a second here to introduce exactly the work that she's doing here. And you should know she is the one that promoted this entire event. So thank you, Tatiana. In the meantime, you get a tax deduction for setting up that lead trust and funding it. You get that year number one. Remember the toll bridge? Now we have a tax deduction. We get our money to go across the toll bridge. That money is now permanently tax-free for the rest of your life. And then whatever's left over in the lead trust at the end of the period of time goes back to family. It's literally that simple. And by the way, you do have rights as the donor when you set up the lead trust. We'd be glad to go through any additional details as we go through this. So real quick, we transfer the property into the trust. We get a tax deduction. The income from the trust goes to charity. At the end of the period of time stated, whatever's left in the trust comes back to you, the donor, or your family. Pretty cool, right?
Love it.
Thank you. All right. So if you wouldn't mind, I would love to hear why leaders yielding to new knowledge is such a good idea on our next slide.
Thank you, Jim. Let me go ahead and introduce Tatiana real quick. She's going to tell you guys a little bit about her foundation. She's actually served a 35-year career as an educator in Canada. She educates and inspires in ways that have lasting global impact. She earned a Bachelor of Education and Physical Education from McGill University in Montreal, Quebec, a diploma in French education from Simon Fraser University, and a master's degree in education from the University of British Columbia, both in Vancouver and Canada. Tatiana is the founder and executive director of an international charity called Leaders Yielding to New Knowledge Foundation. She oversees a global team of people who share a common vision, spread the word, and take steps every day to bring this vision to reality. Link is developing the next generation of youth through a new sustainable school from nursery to grade 6 in Liberia, West Africa, and has a host of other bold initiatives on the horizon to make lasting life-saving change. Tatiana sits on paid international boards of directors and advisory boards of public and private companies in the AI industry and cybersecurity industry, and has a portfolio of real estate across North America. Without further ado, Tatiana, tell us a little bit more about Link.
Thank you, Jake, and thank you, Jim. I'm extremely excited. When I found out about this program, that's why I got involved with everybody, because I saw a great future for my foundation. The history is that in 2018, I went to Africa on a humanitarian trip, and I was teaching full-time at the time in Vancouver, Canada, in a high school. And when I went to Africa on a humanitarian trip, it changed my life completely. So I came back from that trip in October 2018, and in December 2018, I actually retired because I decided instead of remaining a local teacher, I would become a global teacher. And I started Link Foundation completely by myself, not knowing what I was doing. And as we entrepreneurs all know, we build the plane as we're flying it, and I've been extremely successful. So when I was in Africa, I met a gentleman named Paul, who is in the picture in the back, and he's also an educator and now the director of our school. And this is the new school that we built. When I first met Paul, he didn't have a school, and he started, and it was like a shanty tin wooden school, and now it's complete brick and mortar, and it's nursery to grade 6. We have 300 students. And what's really special about this school is that no students are being left behind. So all the students are getting a free education. None of them are having to pay, because if they had to pay, they wouldn't be able to go to school. And if our school did not offer free education, these children would not be going to school. So by them coming to school, we are saving them from sex trafficking, organ harvesting, and gangs. And so, you know, I'm making a small difference, but small difference to 300 students to me is a big thing. So it's been extremely successful. And next year we're going to have a humanitarian trip where we're going to bring people with philanthropic mindset to come and help be transformed and inspired and help make a difference in our school. The next phase of our school is to build grades 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12. And my philosophy is to build 10 diamond schools in every sense that you can think of. Our next project right now is to build a playground because these children don't have anywhere to play. So we're raising $25,000 just to build the playground. After that, we're going to be building a home for the director on school grounds to protect the children in security wise, because somebody needs to be on the school grounds for it to work better. And after we do that, we're going to build another school because our goal is to build 100 schools in Africa. Our goal is to give away $100 million in philanthropic causes.
Wow. Okay, now, Jake, now what's really fun is that we're starting to put meat and sinew on the bones. This is the doing good part of the doing well by doing good. As you can tell, this is, I get emotional when I think about this, because ending poverty starts with education. And I'm just like, I'm super excited about what Tatiana and her team is up to. I'm super excited about this. I'm going to invite people to consider her foundation as a worthy cause, and we would be glad to work with you. This is my give, is to volunteer my time to go through and work with your clients, work with anybody who's interested in this, and look to support the Link Foundation. Now,
I want to add one more thing. We are a charity in Canada and a 501c3 in the United States, and everything that any type of donation gets an automatic tax receipt.
Yeah, Tatiana was very excited to let us know that that has been automated and built into the system from ground zero.
Yes.
Well done, Tatiana. All righty.
Thank you.
So, folks, just want to let you know, this is, again, what we mean by doing good. This is good work. So think about this. What we're talking about today is we're talking about the tax deductions. We're talking about wealth building, and we're talking about supporting those valuable causes. Because remember, there's many of us who have a heart for charity. There's few of us who are soldiers for the work. And what we want to do is to use what the government gives us to support those people out there making a difference in the world. And on that note, I invite you to please use the next link. We're going to go ahead and keep that up there for a minute as we answer any of the questions. Okay.
Yep, this link is to schedule a meeting directly with our team. We would invite you to go on there so we can schedule some time with you and spend a little bit of time talking about your specific situation. We do have some questions coming in, so I'll go through a couple of those while you guys book your appointments there. And then if you do have any more questions, we would encourage you to pop them in. But Jim, somebody asked here, how long has this strategy been around?
Since 1969.
Oh, great. So this isn't
It's
something
actually
new.
been a long. I'm sorry, I'm a nerd, and I actually know more than is good for me to know. This strategy has actually been around for decades before that, but before that, they didn't have any defined rules. It was done by opinion and guesstimates and estimates. And so sometimes certain famous families were abusing the rules. So in 1969, they codified the rules. The IRS said, look, if you're going to do it, this is the way you're supposed to do it. They actually lay it out. Go ahead.
Great. So 1969. Another question, is there a limit to how much and what you can donate to the trust?
There's actually no upper limits of what can be donated. There are practical limitations having to do with how much impact they have on your tax return. And that would be part of our working with Jake. Is what he will do is he will work with us to figure out how much of the tax deductions we can use. Now, I'll give an example. Let's just say Mr. Sampole set up this trust. He put in $150,000. He's got $125,000 tax deduction. but he can only use $50,000 worth of tax deductions this year. That's not a problem. Any of the excess tax deductions will carry forward for up to an additional 5 years and get used up. Now, the magic is that we have to do enough strategy to understand your circumstances that we don't waste those tax deductions. There's nothing sadder than an unused tax deduction.
There's nothing that breaks my heart quite like an unused tax deduction. Okay, great. So another one, what is the due date of having these set up for? I assume they're asking, do these have to be set up in the calendar year, or when do these have to be set up exactly?
Yes, they must be set up in the calendar year you use the tax deduction. Now, frequently, they're set up December 31st at 5 o'clock in the afternoon after me begging the attorney not to go home. Okay. Please give us some time to get these things set up. There's a little bit of give in the system for how we can fund it and when the first actual donations have to actually go out. So imagine you'd set it up December 31st. Well, obviously, it's impractical for you to have assumed a gift from that trust at that point. We would tag that trust to give gifts 12 months later, the following December. So yeah, there's a little bit of slop in the system. If you know you're going to transfer an asset into the trust and you can identify the asset, we don't necessarily have to complete the transfer in order to get the tax deduction and get the trust operational. That's just a little bit of practical advice.
So there's some strategy that goes into this, it sounds like, Jim.
Yes.
For whoever asked that question, I would strongly advise set up an appointment so we can talk about your specific situation and we can guide you in the right direction. So another one, Tatiana, how do we learn more about and possibly donate to the Link Foundation? I think you're on mute there.
There you go. Yeah, you had to unmute me. So if you go to link.org, ly2nk.org, there's many buttons in the website that says support now. And what's beautiful is if you want to donate now, just because, you will automatically get a gorgeous tax receipt, and 100% of your donations, well, actually 85% of your donations is going directly towards the cause. The other stuff, for example, is going towards paying. I have a car full of t-shirts and hats and sweatshirts that I just got from the border. That is for our next fundraiser, because when you come to a hiking fundraiser, you'll see it in the website. We just had a hiking fundraiser event on June 24th, and people bought t-shirts, hats, and sweaters. So I had to go pick up the stuff. So that, for example, is how I paid for that stuff when they came to the hiking fundraiser event and they bought a ticket. So you go to link.org, ly2nk.org, click on the support button, and there you go.
Yeah, it's spelled a little unique. I just want to make sure everyone knows ly2nk.org. It's www.ly2nk.org.
Yeah,
So,
the number 2.
Great. Thank you, Tatiana. I see we've got a couple more questions coming in here. We've got plenty of time. So if anyone else has questions, put them in there. Hopefully we'll get Jim working overtime here. Maybe we can keep him past the allotted time. But let's see. Can you have this looks like a good one. Can you have multiple trusts set up or only one, Jim?
Oh, that's an excellent question. I'll tell you about, he's now become a friend of mine. He had significant income tax and he was diligently giving money away to charity. He had charitable intent and charitable interest. I talked to him about this strategy. He got very excited about it. And after an enormous amount of due diligence, we set up the first trust. Next year, he calls me up and he says, I'm thinking about setting up another one of those trusts. You mind if I ask you more questions? I said, sure, no problem. He asked me more questions. So we set up a second trust. The following year, he says, Jim, I want another one. The following year, he CC'd me on a copy on an email to the attorney telling him how much money he wants to set up in the next one. And the following year is the same thing. Yes, you can have multiple trusts. And the other thing I also want to point out is when you have a trust, remember, there is a layer of asset protection. Nobody wants to sue a charity. Okay. So bear that in mind. That's a good idea.
But Thank you for that, Jim. Let me ask you this kind of a personal question here too. So it sounds like, obviously this is a great strategy for high net worth individuals. What about more kind of people who are just getting started in their charitable journey and those sort of things? Is there like a threshold where it makes sense of, hey, if I give a certain amount to charity every year already, or is that something we would need to meet with on more of a one-to-one basis?
Well, just as a rule of thumb, it always makes sense to have the conversation regardless of your circumstances. And a rule of thumb is if you're already giving away $5,000 a year and you're going to continue to do that, then this just makes an excellent thing to consider. And as far as net worth is concerned, it is rare, in my opinion, where net worth is impinging on somebody's ability to do this. Now you think about it. Let's say that Sam Pohl, right? Let's say he was 45 years old and he's making $150,000 a year and he has a $500,000 net worth. Like, this is not a very wealthy guy. He can set one of these trusts up because remember, whatever's left in the trust comes back to the family. Okay, so absolutely. If you're at all interested, make the appointment. We're not charging for this appointment. My normal consulting fee is $9,000. So that's a no joke gift for the Link Foundation. Okay. And we do encourage people to have that conversation if you're at all interested.
Great. Thank you so much, Jim. Hey, we got another question in here too. I'm surprised this one didn't come up sooner. How much does it cost to set one of these up?
Very good question. The typical cost, depending on attorneys, is anywhere from $7,500 up to about $12,000. Our attorneys, we give them enough business. Our attorneys will do it for between $4,000 and $5,000, depending on your details. So a little bit of a bargain. And by the way, those fees would be tax deductible.
There we go. Legal fees are always tax deductible, right? Beautiful.
Okay.
That's all the questions we have in there for now. If you guys are still here joining us and you have some questions, pop those in there. We've got Jim booked for
I see
another
question that popped up on my side.
Oh, perfect.
Okay. The question was, well, what happens if I want to sell the asset? In other words, I have my house in there and my $500,000 house is now shot up to $1 million and somebody offered me a great big suitcase full of cash. Sell it.
Which probably has happened in the past 2 or 3 years with the way the real estate markets happen, right?
Yes. Well, one thing we have to understand is that as the trustee, which the donor would be the trustee, they're responsible for the management of the investments. Okay. They cannot do transactions with themselves. However, if they have an outside buyer for the asset, they're more than welcome to do a 1031 exchange. They're more than welcome to do any prudent investment strategy. Now, if somebody comes along and offers a great big suitcase full of cash, you can also go back to court and say, Mr. Judge, I want to pay off my $193,000, whatever is left of my $193,500. I want to pay that off to the Link Foundation. Tatiana is going to say, not a problem with me. I'll go ahead and take that cash. The judge is going to say, as long as you're not trying to pull a fast one, okay, let me see your numbers. Let me see your documents. Great. Pretty much a rubber stamp. Go ahead and pay off the lead, sell the property, put the money on the net proceeds in your pocket, just like you would if you had a mortgage against the property. Ta-da. Okay.
Wow, that's incredible.
Thank you. All right. Are there any more questions?
I don't see any more questions in here. Once again, guys, if you have any more, pop them in there in the Q&A box. We'd be happy to answer those. We got Jim and Tatiana booked till the top of the hour here. If there's no other questions, maybe we'll cut you guys early. I can't tell you personally, I can't thank you both enough for the stuff that you're doing out there. It's great to have you guys as business partners, and I look forward to doing much more of these events as well as in-person events and other great things in the future. So
I'm extremely excited for the future of our schools and anything that anybody can do in any kind of small donation, or, you know, this whole idea for me is like so powerful. I hope that every single one of you on this webinar will move forward with making an appointment and making a difference in children's lives today.
You can't argue with that one, can you, Jake?
Not at all. Once they're old enough, I think we maybe have a few years, but I'd love to get my kids, they're 3 and 5 now. Love to get them involved on a trip over there, putting them to work on doing some digging and getting to know the culture a little bit. I think that would be a really good thing for everyone, but especially like the youth to be involved in, you know?
Now,
Well, when I went there, I didn't think it was going to change my life the way it did. When you go there and you come back living in gratitude and not believing that the world is this way. And instead of me coming back and just forgetting about it, I decided to make a difference and actually do something about it. As small as it is, it's a huge difference. And they are the warmest people I have ever met. And when they smile and they're so hungry for education, it's crazy. So it's all good.
absolutely. Absolutely. Now, I just want to remind folks that this is Center Street with the IRS. Okay, it works. It's really cool. There are certain considerations that we have to build into the whole process, which is why we do the consultation at no charge. Feel free to make the appointment. I'd be glad to work with you. Of course, we want you to focus on Link Foundation, and you're more than welcome to set up your own foundation called a donor advised fund. And here's the fun part with that one. Let's assume for a second, I'm Jake Alexander and I've got 2 little kids and I want to teach them their heart. I want to teach them the thing that they take with them for the rest of their life. Imagine getting together with your kids once a year and saying, okay, kids, we have a responsibility to give money to charity. Which charity do you want to give money to and why? And just wait and watch your kids grow, watch your kids blossom. I love that one. That's a goosebump moment.
I love that. Yeah.
All right. By the way, as the donor trustee of one of these devices, you can have that conversation with your kids as well.
Wow. I
All
love
right.
that. Maybe we could do another one of these on donor advised fund.
Wouldn't that be just a fun thing to do?
I would love that.
All right. All righty.
All right,
Well, do we have any more questions?
No more questions. That's why I was gonna put a bow on everything. You guys, I can't thank you enough. Everyone who tuned in, I can't thank you guys enough as well. If nobody has any other questions, we'll cut these guys loose. We'll wrap up here. Jim, thank you so much for your time and expertise. Tatiana, thank you so much for your time and expertise and everything you're doing. We will talk to you guys soon.
All right. Bye-bye.
All right, bye. Have a great day, everyone.